What's up, everybody? We got a special podcast for you this week coming out on the Martian MMA channel. My name is John. You guys know me from every week on the Martian MMA podcast. And I got with me one of my good friends, Ozzy. Say what's up, Ozzy.
Yo, what's going on, guys? I hit John up to just record a bit. Coming off last week, obviously a kind of a stale card, and going into this week, one of the fight night events that I think they've matched up the best in recent memory, and looking forward to all the fights on the card there.
I totally agree. And Ozzy is talking about the Dillashaw versus Sandhagen card. 12 fights from the Apex. Apparently, there are going to be some fans in attendance at the Apex for this card. So that's a nice added addition to the card. And like Ozzy said, some actually really good fights for a fight night. Looking at some of the fight nights in the past and the future, they don't look so good. But we're going to bring you a podcast talking about all these fights here. And we'll try to make it consistent. Me and Ozzy talk a lot and we like recording together. So we're going to try to record as many of these as we can. So there will still be Martian MMA tomorrow. I'll still keep doing the solo podcast for now. And we're just going to release some collab podcasts while we can. So that sounds good, right, Ozzy?
Yep, I think so.
All right. And let's just dive right into these fights. We got a killer fight to start the card. Belbita versus Goldie. The odds have it as a pretty much a dead pick 'em across most books. I'll let you start this one off. Ozzy, did you tape this one?
Yeah, I did. So, I've seen both these girls. Goldie, I remember her, I remember all her fights, especially going back to that contender series fight where I thought she, probably overperformed, even, considering the opponent, but just, overperformed and, especially if you compare it to her debut fight. The odds have tightened up here a lot. Belbita was, I think like plus 170, plus 160 when she opened. And I think in this fight against Goldie, uh, you know, it's a case where, you see Hannah Goldie, she's, chiseled out of rock, really, really strong girl, but, 61.5 inch reach, I believe. Belbita is just, I feel, the more dangerous fighter and just fights with a lot more intent. So obviously Goldie is so a fire hydrant, so she's gonna have to get inside. Once she is inside, I feel like some of the skills that Belbita has, both kind of like clinch striking and just being able to evade some of the shots that Goldie comes in with, because they're probably going to be a little bit more telegraphed, gives her the advantage in this fight. But you never know with her on in terms of her ground game, because in both her UFC fights, she got roughed up on the ground. So it's a fight where, pick'em price is probably more or less fair. I got a little bit of Belbita plus money, and I think I would bet that again, obviously, if it did come back up. But I think maybe, still a little value here, unless we're seeing, you see Goldie come in with a bunch of improvements that she's had over the last like year and a half on the ground, via her OnlyFans account. I don't think she has what it takes here to beat Belbita decisively.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all that. Only thing I don't agree with is at the current price, I would probably just wait to see if Belbita goes back to plus money. Yeah, I saw that at the end of the last week that she was like plus 132, and I knew that Goldie shouldn't be minus 150 over everybody. Hasn't fought in 2 years, and I agree with all of what you said about her on the Contender Series. She looked, kind of good there, throwing like 120 strikes, but then like she barely threw anything versus Granger, and looked like a pretty bad striker. So yeah, Goldie moves backwards the entire time when she's striking. That's just not a good formula for women's MMA. Belbita does seem to come forward with like a little more aggression and power behind her strikes, and I think we can trust Belbita to just throw and land more when the fight's at distance. But Belbita is the worst defensive grappler of the two. I think if these two women somehow end up on bottom, I think Goldie has a better chance at actually standing up, while Belbita could just lose the fight or the round on bottom. So that is a big concern. I think you need plus money to be betting a fight this low level. So I agree with Belbita at plus money, and I'm gonna pick her to win by decision.
Yeah, I probably agree. Also on her by decision. So
Nice. And next we got in the women's flyweight division, Sajara Eubanks as the minus 357 favorite, Elise Reed plus 292. I'll start this one off. I think this line is pretty justified. Reed is a way smaller woman, has fought at atom weight 115 for most of her career, and is now jumping up to Eubanks at 125. And Eubanks has fought at 135 for some of her career as well. So Eubanks should have some big size on her. She should have a huge grappling advantage. I mean, Reed was just taken down so easily. She was putting in some deep submissions by Rose in her CFFC fight. And I just think that she's not going to survive the grappling and the takedown attempts of Sajar Eubanks. And I actually bet Eubanks by submission is plus 500. That's on FanDuel.
Ooh,
It's still on there. Yeah,
ooh.
you might have to get in on that because I mean, her knockout line is plus 290 and her sub line is plus 500. I think that's like
Yeah.
completely flipped. So you should definitely get in on that Eubanks plus 500. I think there's a really good chance it happens. And that's what I'm picking. Eubanks submission probably in the first 2 rounds as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest thing here is obviously a size difference, and the experience. You know, Sarge is either like 6-6 or 6-7, depending on where you look. But also has those Ultimate Fighter fights on her record, and I remember when I was coming up in jiu-jitsu, she was tearing through the female divisions there. So she's competed a lot. Elise Reed, just like 4-0 in MMA. I saw her last fight in the CFFC, and it kind of, she just, the other girl kind of gave up a little bit. She looked for the finish for a bit, and then Reed overwhelmed her. I just don't see that being in the deck of cards here unless Sarge can't make that weight cut again at 125, and somehow Reed slips off one time, almost like a Rodolfo Vieira thing, where Sarge does have success grappling, but somehow, some way, maybe going for a submission, Reed gets back up to her feet, and and then the fight is a lot closer because Sarge is starting to fade. But I would definitely lean towards Eubanks getting this to the ground and solidifying positions and probably landing some big ground and pound early on, in pursuit of a submission later.
Yeah, good point about Eubanks cardio too. It seems like every time you think the cardio problem is solved, like the Maras fight, she took her down in all 3 rounds. She looked good. And then the Kianzad fight, she kind of gassed out again in that fight halfway
Hmm.
through.
Hmm.
And then going down to 125, that is kind of a surprise. I didn't really fully grasp that until a few days ago, but hopefully she took her strength and conditioning and weight cutting a little bit more seriously and doesn't gas out this time. I think she should be good though. This should be a pretty easy matchup. And then next fight in the bantamweight division, we got Julio Arce minus 200 versus Andre Ewell. I'll let you start on New York's own Julio Arce.
Yeah, so really good fight here. Arce coming down from 145, where he had really good success. For the most part, I thought that last fight that he lost to Hakeem could have. I'm not saying it was a robbery, but I thought that if he fights that any more intelligently, he kind of gets an easy win there. And he's going against Andre Ewell, who just is in very, very strange fights overall. He's has some really good experience. Has fought a lot of very good opponents, but in this fight, he comes into it against a guy in Arce who's just extremely well rounded. He's Golden Glove level boxer, and I think he's continued to develop those skills as he's been in the UFC. His ground game is very underrated. I've personally been in some grappling divisions with him. I remember one or two occasions and like no-gi advance. This is 6, 7, 8 years ago maybe, and he was doing really well in those. So he was probably close to black belt level back then. So I think and he's only continued to work on that at Tiger Showman. So I think he should look to close the distance at some point against Ewell, get a body lock, just get Ewell in a extended grappling exchange, and then be able to take him down and and work to a dominant position, kind of like how Nathaniel Wood did. But yeah, I think this is Arce's fight to take. I think at the current price, there's maybe some value just because Ewell, how he fights, he's going to be looking to, line up that left cross with his jab. But I don't really see him being able to hurt Arce with any strikes. How do you feel about the fight though overall? This is an interesting matchup for the first fight for Arce at 135. I think he can, win some fights down here.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I actually thought about maybe playing Arce when he was maybe minus 185, but I think the layoff, he hasn't fought since November of 2019. You were at that fight. That probably seems like 2, 3 years ago with the pandemic and everything. But um, the layoff and going down to 135, I guess there's a few question marks that don't make me in love with playing him at minus 200. But yeah, he should edge the striking here, in my opinion, and then have a huge grappling advantage, like you said. And the best case scenario for Ewell is really like a close striking decision. I mean, the guy's always in close decisions, even when he should beat opponents like Barrow, like the guy he busted up, who ended up committing murder. I forget his name. Rivera, I think his name
Oh,
is.
Irwin Rivera.
Yeah, I hate to bring up that detail to remember him by, but like he made that fight a split decision somehow. I mean, it was pretty bad
Yeah,
judging, but like Ewell's style is just always close fights. So I think Arce has the much more potential to like win the fight clearly, and I think he'll look really good at 135. And like you said, trains at a really good gym, Tiger Schulman, really good sparring partners up there. So this should be his fight. I think he'll
yeah,
just scrape by like justify minus 200, and maybe stab on a submission line also plus 500 for Arce's
yeah.
submission.
Yeah, one thing I saw too, and just to build up, Arce said that he had elbow surgery on both his elbows, and that he was inhibited, like he couldn't really extend on his punches that much, and he kind of like mocked it a little bit. And I went back to look at his Hakeem Dawodu fight, and you could see, and even in a Rosa fight, I think that he was holding his hands up in position where it's really strange, and it had to be because of some of that scar tissue and stuff in his elbows that he got cleaned up or whatever it was that he got cleaned up. So I think we're gonna see a guy here who's looking to push the pace here and look for a finish. So I think some don't, if you're going to play Arce, I would not get greedy on like a decision line and stuff like that. I think just playing his money line would probably be best.
Yeah, I agree. I'd be pretty surprised to see him lose here. Next fight, also bantamweight division. Adrian Yanez is minus 227, taking on Randy Costa plus 192. I guess I'll start this one off, and I think the line is wide. I actually already took some Costa knockout round one at plus 950, which is a crazy line. And I just think this line is closer, or the fight is closer than the line indicates. I mean, I don't have any supreme confidence in Costa to get it done, but um, pricing Yanez at minus 200 or above, I just cannot agree with that. I've always had some kind of hesitancy over Yanez because I think the guy is a bit low volume. He kind of searches for that knockout. And when he doesn't get that knockout or the knockdowns, I don't think he has that great round winning style. He's not pumping out a high volume every single round. And that was evident in a couple of his LFA fights back in the day. He lost a split decision to Miles Johns, where he probably should have won that fight, but he just didn't really have the highest volume. He did all the damage in that fight. Like Johns just pushed him against the cage the entire time. Um, but he just wasn't really winning the rounds convincingly. Also, Yanez in his last fight against Lopez only landed like 40 strikes over 10 minutes against a way lower level opponent than Costa. And you know, there's still a lot to be proven about Randy Costa. The guy only has like 12 or 15 minutes of pro MMA fight time. So I still think there's a lot that this guy can improve of. He's training at Stanford for the past 8 months. I think we're going to see some improvements there.
Sanford. I don't think he's got the IQ for Stanford.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'm saying what I say with the ST. Yeah, my fault. Yeah, because I don't know if people know this about Costa, but like he was kind of like a pet project of Joe Lozon. Like Lozon just kind of
Oh yeah.
convinced him to fight when Costa didn't even really want to fight. His first like he basically got to the UFC like casually training MMA. So I think he's just gonna get more serious. He's gonna look a lot better, and I just think plus 190 is too wide for him. So I'm down to take a little Costa here. Like I said, I'm not supremely confident in the guy, but I just see it as like 60-40 best for Yanez. I think Costa can knock him out early, and I think we're gonna see some improved cardio from Costa. Obviously, the only time he's been in round two against Brandon Davis, he did lose that fight, but I just think we're gonna see overall improvements from Costa, and I think the low volumeness of Yanez, and I didn't even talk about the defensive issues from Yanez. I mean, the guy just doesn't have good boxing defense, in my opinion. He's reckless when he's coming forward. Even when he was fighting that guy Rodriguez that he knocked out with that brutal head kick, he was just marching him down with no defense, and he got clean or hit clean a couple times there. So, what are you thinking about this one? I think I have more confidence in Costa than the average person and the market does. What are you thinking about this match with Ozzy?
Um, yeah, so a really awesome fight, for them to put together. I was watching some more Adrian Yanez tape today. I've probably watched his fights a few times, but especially the last one with Gustavo, because at a certain the low volume criticism is for sure warranted. But I think in some of these fights, he's so comfortable throwing with a guy, when they're throwing at the same time and kind of like intercepting them, that it's almost like you said, it like inhibits him sometimes or puts him behind the eight ball. But I think he's just such a nuanced striker that he can change his approach really, really quickly, and his hands are just like extremely accurate when he does throw them. So that's something that I notice, and that's what boxing trainers a lot of sometimes tell you when you're having a hard time hitting a guy. They're like, okay, well, if we can't either lead or counter right away, we just got to throw with him and throw harder, throw quicker, so we're out of the way, and we're changing the tempo of the punches and how they're going back and forth. And Costa, what I would say is probably really good at that as well. He's really, really twitchy. He'll hop in and out when you see that knockout against Boston Salmon. He's stepping into the pocket. He's backing away real quick. He's leaping in again with punches. So he has a really good also control of space there. But Yanez, I feel should be able to withstand swarms from Costa. I don't think that, I know we say that the Yanez's style is low volume. I feel that Costa Costa a lot of times, like if he's going to win this fight, and it's not because he lands one KO shot, it needs to be because he comes out and he uses, some of his kicks and knees and other strikes, because he is extremely right hand dominant, and I just don't think that he's going to be there and being able to chuck right hands at Yanez without getting countered pretty big at certain points. But I mean, I would not lay the juice on Yanez here. I think it's a little bit too much. I know that he has a ground advantage, but I don't think that he's going to come out there looking to wrestle at any point. And the cardio situation is interesting, because I think this fight will bring something out of both of them that they are not used to. So I can't necessarily say, hey, Yanez has the cardio advantage because he's been in longer fights before, because I think the fight that's gonna break out here is gonna be a lot different than any of his past ones.
Yeah, those are all good points. So you got an official prediction? I never gave my official prediction. I'm
Uh,
I'm going with
yeah.
Costa.
I'm going to take Yanez by second round stoppage, some kind of stoppage.
Nice. Yeah, I think if he
Yep.
wins, it'll probably be 2-3, and Costa wins, it'll probably be round one. But honestly, I'm not ruling out like a close decision on either side here either. And
I
then
was
one.
thinking about the over, but I feel it's just gonna be so sweaty. I think I'm just gonna try and enjoy it. Just enjoy the fight, hang out.
Yep, and actually, this fight moved up in the card. It's on the main card now, but
Yeah.
Tapology hasn't updated that. So we analyzed it a little early, but nonetheless, we're gonna keep going on. Next fight, middleweight division. Your boy Ian Heinisch minus one
Mm,
sixty,
Ian,
minus 170 now. Imavov plus 145. I'll let you
Ian.
start this one off here. What are you thinking?
Oh man, so Ian, really let me down last time against Kelvin. I really believed in him. But it was not to be. He's going against Imavov here, who I also am a fan of for sure. Had that really good fight against Phil Halls last time, and these are two guys that just really, for the most part, pretty well rounded. I think Imavov, if he's not getting stalled out like he was versus Phil Hawes, he has a lot of potential. I think in this middleweight division. I think the fight, how it's gonna go is. Uh, I was leaning a little bit into thinking, I know that a lot of people have thought this would be like a fight that goes over, but I feel like, Heinisch, he's just kind of to me just really unpredictable given that he throws a lot of power strikes out there. And he doesn't mind if he's wrestling, if he's uh on the feet. He's looking to do damage in a lot of points. And Imavov has that front choke. He's got a lot of tool, he's got pretty good hands. He has some kicks. And both these guys have pretty good cardio. So I think, I've been hearing people like the over here, how it's trending. Heinisch going up to minus 170 now. I think there's a little bit of a tax here on people feeling that his training situation is improving or getting better there at Sanford MMA. And then he's going to be, and because he's had like this more big fight experience against Brunson, against Calvin Gastelum, that he's going to have too much experience for Imavov. But I think Imavov is a sleeper in this division. I don't think he should be discounted because that Phil Hawes fight, he had Phil Hawes on Queer Street. I thought that there was potential that, I was on Imavov there. I thought that he could have won that fight. And I think he's a tough dude. He's a tough dude to fight in that cage. 6'3", big middleweight. Long reach, and they call him the Russian sniper for a reason. This guy's legit. So I think it's a close fight. If we get like Imavov plus 160 or something, I think I might. I think I'll bite on that. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. You sound like it's, a dog or pass, and that's what I think. I mean, Heinisch doesn't really justify minus 170. I mean, he really hasn't ever done that in his UFC career. I mean, both the Mutanche and Carlos Jr. fights were close, and when he blasted GM3, I don't think that result told us a whole lot. But I just don't think he's the type of guy to really justify minus 170. And I agree with all of what you said about Imavov. And the Hawes fight, I just watched that, and I think there's no way Imavov lost that fight. I mean, you have to award the damage of Imavov. He did the majority, if not all, of the damage in that fight. So I had it a draw. You could even give Imavov rounds 2 and 3 with a 3-10-8. So um, he really didn't lose that last fight, in my opinion. But his defensive grappling did look pretty bad. He did get taken down. He did get stuck on his back for long periods of time when Hawes wasn't really doing that much. He was just kind of laying on top of him. So
Yeah.
I think good wrestlers will take him down, but I'm not so sure Heinisch is a good offensive wrestler. I actually held the guy in way higher regard in terms of his defensive grappling, but I think that kind of maybe went down a step in that Kelvin Gastelum fight. I mean, Gastelum had more success out grappling him than Mutanche and Cesar and Carlos Jr. did a while back. So I don't know. I think Heinisch might be losing a step a little bit. I just don't feel like the guy has any go-to offense. Like he doesn't have any consistent tools that work for him. That big looping right hand, he doesn't really have much to set it up. I mean, maybe he can get behind a leg kick and a jab at times. I think he's been training at Sanford MMA, so he might show some improvements. But I think Imamov is the better distance striker. I think he has the better straight punches. I think he's gonna have a big speed advantage in the boxing here. And unless Heinisch hits takedowns and top games Imavov, which he hasn't really done to many opponents, I think that Imavov is going to pull off the upset here. So I like Imavov as a dog. Just waiting to see what the line closes at before I bet
Listen,
him. And
stat guys have to be all over Imavov. He's younger. He's got like 4 inches in reach. They got that's like an auto bet. He's taller. That has to be like an
let's
auto
see.
bet.
I wonder
No,
what some of
has to
the
be,
metrics say about him. I don't know.
has to be, bro. They have to be on Imavov.
He's
But
got a
I
4-inch height reach or 4-inch height advantage. 3-inch reach advantage for him too.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but yeah, I think yeah, I think Heinisch probably going to be throwing calf kicks, looking to throw kicks. So I think it's gonna be a close fight though. So, but I think and Heinisch is really durable. But I really think that Imavov serious. He's a serious fighter in the UFC. Like I don't think he's a guy that should be, getting cut and stuff. So I think it's a good bounce back. Potentially, but it's a tough fight for him, no doubt. Tough fight.
All right, we'll move on to
I'm
the
gonna
next
pick.
one.
My pick's gonna be a Mavov by decision.
Nice, nice. And Imavov knockout plus 425. It's somewhat interesting prop for that fight. Next fight, we're staying in the middleweight division. We got Brendan Allen taking on Puna Soriano. Virtually a pick 'em across all the markets. Some sports books out there have it at minus 105 for Brendan Allen. And this is a close matchup for a reason. And I think you kind of got to speculate on either side here because Puna Soriano has never really faced a takedown attempt in MMA. From what I can tell, I watched some of his fights before the UFC. Of course, his fights in the UFC. He hasn't really faced any grapplers or any guys who attempted to take him down. He's usually the opponent taking his opponents down, especially on the regional scene. It definitely seems like he's fallen in love with his hands lately. The guy has a great straight left hand, good power behind it, and he's knocked out both of his opponents in the UFC with it. And I think that the striking will actually be closer than people expect. I thought we saw some good improvements from Brendan Allen in his last fight in the striking. He pressured Carl Roberson. He was pumping out output to give him a lot of different looks. And right when he got Roberson thinking about the strikes, he switched it up with that takedown attempt, took him down, and was able to submit him with an ankle lock, which isn't how I remember that fight going. I actually was kind of surprised to see that's how it ended on rewatch. But you kind of got to speculate here whether Allen is going to have, or excuse me, whether Soriano is going to have the takedown defense to stop the takedown attempts of Brendan Allen. And I'm actually leaning towards Allen hitting those takedowns. I think that Puna just swings a little bit too wild on the feet. He's going to be put off balance. Allen's just going to wait for the right time where Puna overextends himself, and he's going to time that takedown attempt, get him to the floor, and eventually outgrapple him and probably stop him in the later rounds. Puna, not really known for going out of round one, only been out of round one time. And he did kind of slow down in that fight against Pickett on the Contender Series. So I think Allen has the better cardio. He has got the better grappling advantage. And as long as he can avoid getting knocked out early, he should finish this fight in rounds 2 or 3. So I'm siding towards Allen here, but some props for this fight that have value. Puna knockout round one plus 410. That seems like his most likely win condition. And those Allen round two, round three props have some value as well. What are you thinking about this one, Ozzy?
So I also like Brendan Allen here. Puna is a very impressive athlete. Really big. You could see, knows how to put his weight behind his punches and do a lot of damage. And coming from that left hand side, his punches just look really good. They look really educated, and he knows how to land that left hand. That being said, as he comes in, he is extremely left hand dominant, which you can tell a lot of times when the guy's not able to cut off the cage and he's kind of left behind sometimes, while throwing that left hand. But he really doesn't have anything to offer from the right hand side. He doesn't throw that many kicks from what I've seen, and he's kind of really looking to duck in, throw the left, back you up, line you up, to land that left hand. So, Allen coming from a gym where he's sparring guys like Brunson and a bunch of these other guys, and he has someone like Henry Hooft behind him, he should be able to fight more to his strengths and definitely avoid first of all that left hand of Puna, but also probably use that against Puna and look to set up some clinch entries when Puna's being so over aggressive, because I think more often than not, the takedown comes from some kind of body lock, attempt or, something like that where, Puna's moving him around, but, Allen's got into a position with underhooks or a body lock that he just ends up beating him and, putting him down at a certain point in the exchange. I think this fight, it could get hairy for Allen at some point. It's like I wouldn't be surprised surprised if I see him, squirming around on his back, like, pulling guard, like having like a half guard where he's coming up on a single leg and Puna's like trying to, land strikes on him. But, the intent should be, I think, look to establish range with the kicks, and eventually tire this guy out so you can, get a later round stoppage. But I think there's some value here on Allen still. I think that he'll avoid the big shots from Puna long enough to be able to start putting damage on Puna and really testing his cardio and what his defense looks like when he's not able to just scare people away.
Nice. Sounds like we're on the same page. I'll probably end up taking about a unit of Allen's money line as well. Um, and some breaking news. I want to get your reaction to this live.
Oh my
Aspen
gosh.
Lad versus Macy Shaston is
Oh
canceled. It
no.
is canceled.
Oh
So you
no.
guys heard it here
COVID.
first.
Damn it.
Um, we'll still
Is it
maybe.
COVID? Is it COVID
No,
or
apparently it's an injury. Apparently it's an injury. Who knows?
oh who from Aspen Lad?
I don't know. It was probably Aspen Ladd being too chubby and having to cut too much weight, honestly.
Oh
Just
no.
speculating, of course. But we are moving on. We have the next fight in the welterweight division where we have Jordan Williams as the -170 favorite taking on Mickey Gall plus 145 underdog. I'll let you start this one off. What are you thinking about this welterweight fight?
So Mickey versus Jordan Williams, really interesting matchmaking. Um, Jordan Williams, I thought was an interesting fighter and kind of like what he brought. Like he just mostly pace oriented. He's kind of like looking to come forward, land big punches, but really, wear you down over the course of a fight. At one down now here at 170, he could be someone that's pretty dangerous because you can't, he's really hard to put out and he's very well rounded. I think in this fight against Mickey, if I were to be liking Gall, I would just look to take him with some form of, inside distance or by submission because I feel Mickey, sometimes is not, when he's having success, it's very one-sided in his direction. Like he's not really like a guy that's going back and forth with someone. When his offense is effective, it's dominant offense. It's, him landing big punches, is him getting takedowns right into dominant positions, and stuff like that. So I think, there are going to be opportunities for Mickey if he stays in this fight to like get to the back or get a takedown. And I think Williams is he's a guy's intent on making Mickey work. So his immediate reaction to like getting taken down or grappling or whatever is going to be not to hold, like, is to be like, okay, let me just get out of this here. And if I get out of this, I win the fight. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's going to be his thought process. Like, if Gall gets a takedown, he's like, okay, whatever. Like, this is the only takedown this guy has. So let me get up, really, really quick. And then he's going to be gassed and I'm going to knock him out. Because that's the reputation, unfortunately, that kind of Gall has a little bit. And Williams knows his cardio is really, really good. So I think that's going to be how it would probably play out. Um, but I don't think that Jordan is going to finish Mickey Gall, which I think some people are like, oh, Williams inside the distance or whatever. I don't really see that. I think if it's more likely to go to the scorecards, if Williams is able to with Williams's approach, because if he's gonna win more often, I think it'll be by decision.
So I agree with most of what you said there. This fight going the distance is actually plus 120, plus 115 in some places. I think that's off. And I think the most likely finish is going to be a Gall submission here because I doubt Williams is able to knock him out. if Mike Perry wasn't. Also, a big concern about this fight is Williams dropping down to 170. He is a type 1 diabetic and apparently hasn't cut weight specifically for that reason, fought undersized at middleweight for a long time, and he's now cutting weight for this fight. So I think there's a lot of unknowns about how he'll look off the weight cut, how his cardio will be, and he definitely did gas out and slow down big time in his last fight against Imavov. I think that had to do with the front chokes of Imavov. Williams was shooting some lazy takedowns, leaving his neck out there, and got caught in a few nasty guillotines. And I think that just disrupted his breathing, and he never could really recover. Um, and I thought Gall actually looked pretty improved in the striking versus Perry early on. He kind of collapsed after a few minutes and started losing the fight pretty handily. Was actually pretty easily out wrestled and out grappled by Mike Perry as well. But still, I think Gall showed some signs of improvement there. That was a year ago, so he might continue improving. And I think Williams might not even look minus 170 in the striking. I think there's a good chance this is competitive striking exchanges for the first few minutes of the fight. And I don't think Gall's wrestling is that great, but I don't think Williams is that great of a defensive grappler. As I mentioned, he left his neck out a few times versus Imavov, and he could get
Yep.
caught. He could get caught in a submission here versus Gall. So with all the questions around Williams, um, I don't even think the guy is that great of a striker, as I mentioned. So
Mm.
I don't agree with minus 170. I'm not rushing to play Mickey Gall either. I think Mickey Gall's submission is probably the best pre-fight stab on this. Maybe
Yeah.
combine goes the distance with Gall submission. Um, so
Huh.
I guess I'll pick Williams by decision as the official pick, but no way I would lay that minus 170 chalk.
Yeah, I'm actually remembering now. I was at the Mickey. I was at one of the Mickey Gall fights, either the one where he
I was
called
there.
out, the one that he called out CM Punk. I think I was at the one before that.
Oh,
That's the one
really?
that I think I was at. The one before that. That's a
Dead,
funny,
dead
fun.
serious? Is that what it
Yeah.
was?
Oh, maybe you were there. Maybe you were there too. Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah. It was a dead
I just
series.
looked it up. So I was gonna say I was at his fight against Salim Tuhari,
Oh
in New
no, no, no.
Jersey,
Okay.
and because he's from New Jersey, the crowd was going insane, and I was, like, sitting there, I'm like, "You guys are cheering for Mickey Gall, this dude sucks," and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the arena was going nuts.
It it was the fight. It was the fight where he called out CM Punk because my friend was in the co-main event there. So yeah, his Ron Templeton fight, and I was like, this dude called out, or I think maybe it was that he called out CM Punk when he was an amateur, maybe, and then he had the I'm not sure either way, but I think if the line widens a little bit more, I think that Mickey Gall could be a good bet here because people are just fading this cardio so much, but it's been over a year that he's been out, you know what I mean? And his training situation, it's so much different for a lot of these guys than it was back in, May and June of uh COVID time, and I heard him say he had a back injury. So I think this fight could definitely, could play out and much closer than people think. And they have a similar amount of fight experience. Williams has 13 fights, Mickey Gall has 9. Like, I think it was
We gotta say
closer.
too that Williams knocking out RoboCop is, like, one of the biggest flukes in MMA history.
Yeah, I
Um
mean, I think he just caught RoboCop there with like a hook that he didn't really see coming, caught him cold. But I mean, I think that that's just like the variance there of the game. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Well, I hope Mickey Gall wins, honestly, to avenge the RoboCop. So we're moving on to the next fight in the women's flyweight division. We got Miranda Maverick minus 156, Macy Barber plus 136. I'll let you start this one off.
yeah, so good matchup between two girls that are pretty well rounded, and probably higher level athletes for the women's side than you kind of maybe sometimes see. I played a little bit of Miranda Maverick early on, or maybe let's say like a week ago or whatever, and then added a little bit this week. But the more I'm looking at this fight, I'm not sure. Like I'm having a hard time kind of like predicting, what manner, how it's gonna take place because um I'm not sure how. clean Miranda's takedowns are going to be necessarily against Macy. I think Macy has been improving that wrestling. You saw it on display a little bit against Grasso. She hit that really nice inside trip. She hit some double leg takedowns. And was, I thought, moving pretty well in the grappling. Grasso did throw up that armbar and sweeper in the second round, I believe it was. But I think overall she looked pretty improved. Grasso is pretty quick for 125. She has really good, really good hands. And is, I just think one of the more talented girls at the weight class. And I think that, yeah, I'd probably say I would think that she would beat Miranda. Probably that's something that people wouldn't agree with. But it's just, Miranda, I think some of the striking that, that she puts out there, I think is a little overrated, to be honest, even though I do have a bet on her. She throws some good punches, but they're not really like devastating, you know what I mean? Like, I think Macy has a power advantage on the feet. And when not going against a striker as skilled as Grasso that has really good timing, having someone a little bit more traditional like Miranda that's not, rolling out with punches and has, throwing that last punch in a combination when they're changing up speed. I think that Macy can have some success. So I think it's an interesting fight. I think it'll probably go the distance. And I'm kind of wavering on my earlier conviction for Macy. So how do you feel about it?
So one thing you said, you said Grasso would beat Maverick, right? I don't think that's controversial, really. I think that would be
I don't know. I think if you ask most people, they'd probably say that they think Miranda's the higher or the, power rated, whatever. Like they think more favorably of her. But
Yeah, I actually think this is pretty bad matchmaking. Like, I don't get what the hell the UFC is trying to do with Barbara. Like, they matched her against Roxy. She lost, pretty dominantly. She got injured, and then they gave her a way better fighter in Alexa Grasso, and then she loses that, and then they're still barely giving her a step down in competition. It kind of, it's almost like they want her to fail. Um, but I agree with some of the hesitancies you had around Maverick. I think she's the more technical striker. I think that her southpaw striking will be a little bit confusing for Barber. I doubt Barber trains so many southpaws, but I do agree that Barber does have the power advantage. But when I was watching Barber strike versus Grasso, man, she is still winging shit. I mean, she really has next to no setup to some of her offense, in my opinion. And I know Barber's a good or Grasso's a good boxer, but she was really looking like sloppy there, just as sloppy as she did several years back. But you do kind of have to look at how easily they dealt with Robertson. Maverick had, a competitive fight with her, lost a round, and then Barber just destroyed her against the fence,
I had a
easy.
huge bet on Barber versus Robertson.
Really,
Huge.
that was good. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a funny stoppage. Like, she didn't even go down. She was just, the referee was like, "Yeah, enough of this." Um, but so Maverick, I think she's a slight striking advantage. I definitely think she's the better overall grappler, but her wrestling isn't that great. I do agree with that, but I think that she has some pretty creative timing with her takedowns. She hit some key takedowns versus Robertson, and she won a few scrambles from Robertson, especially in the third round. So I have some doubts over Barbara still. I don't think she's making many improvements. And, just the way that she was getting taken down by Roxanne and getting easily passed, and whenever she got on top, she would get reversed. I think the Maverick's going to be the better overall grappler here. And I give a slight advantage to her on the feet as well. So I agree with Maverick being the slight favorite here, maybe 55%. Um, Definitely not in a rush to better where it's at now. I think it is probably dog or pass with Barber at plus 136. I think we're going to be going to a competitive decision here, probably 29-28. And I think Maverick's just going to keep her top position a little bit more when she gets there, have a little more consistent success with her striking. And I think both women have pretty good cardio as well. Both women won round three of their last fights. So it should be competitive, but I think Maverick's going to get it done. Anything else to add there?
No, not really.
All right, moving on to featherweight. We got Derek Minner as the -157 favorite, taking on Darren the Damage Elkins +137. I think you're siding with the damage train here. You want to start this one off, Ozzy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I can't. I'm not buying Eric Minner stock. I'm not doing it. It's not happening, especially after a win over Charles Rosa. Like, come on, you cannot be blinded by this nonsense. This is a fight where it's like, all right, it's screaming to you that Darren Elkins is going to whip Derek Minner's ass. It just is. Like, I look at the fight and I'm like, I mean, could Derek catch him in a sub? For sure. I guess, definitely. But as soon as he does not get that submission, Darren Elkins is going to be all over him. He's not going to freeze when Minner is going for a submission, and back away and do any of that nonsense, and he's not going to accept takedowns like Charles Rosa did. Charles Rosa was getting out wrestled and out grappled by Justin James in the last fight. At worst, this fight should be pick 'em. I'd tell you because Derek Minner, yes, has a lot of finishing capabilities, but he's only going to finish early on. The reason that he was getting all those arm triangles on Charles Rosa and stuff is because Rosa is just kind of weak on the ground and not really looking to get up versus anyone. So Minner was able to kind of just get those static positions. It's not gonna happen against Darren Elkins. It's just not Mirsad Bektik. The late, and he's still alive, but he's retired. It's not funny. I just want to make sure that people know that. Mirsad Bektik, who was supposed to be the next Hammer back in the day. The kids these days won't know that. Couldn't hold Darren Elkins. Derek Minner's not doing it. So I'm on Elkins. I think I bet him at +145 or +150. I think I might add to that. I think that he should probably be the favorite here. I really don't see it with Derek Minner. And if you lose on Elkins, if he gets finished, whatever, you got plus money on him. I don't understand this.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I wasn't expecting it going into tape, but I think the easiest way to summarize this is Minner is a guy who consistently slows down, and Elkins is a guy who never slows down. I mean, Elkins can shoot 10, 15 takedowns a fight and keep going that entire pace over 15 minutes. He can get his ass kicked for 10 minutes and come back in the last round. The guy really just never stops coming forward. I will say that when he was getting hit by Garagori, though, I mean, it looked like he was getting stunned by every shot, really. I mean, he kept coming forward, but it looked like every shot kind of shut his brain off for 1 second, but then he would just, go right back to fighting. So
Well, it's good. He's had 8 months to rest his brain. So
true, and
you're ready.
he's just such a dog. I mean, he literally gets rocked in round 3, gets another takedown, gets the back take, and chokes the guy out 60 seconds later. Gargoyle's no good, but still, that was a very fun a very fun fight to watch. Um,
Bill should be calling out Garagori, dude.
true, true. You have to drop down. Oh no, that's
That's
145.
145, dude.
True, true.
Call him
Um,
out. Let's go,
so
Mexico. Let's go.
so
Whatever.
Minner is not the type of guy to hurt Elkins on the feet, though. I mean, he was kind of showing some improved striking versus Rosa, but I don't think that's going to be very consistent. And Minner had good cardio in that fight. He won because he was winning the entire time. The second Derek Minner faces any adversity in a fight besides his first guillotine attempt, he does kind of wilt and slow down. So I think Elkins is going to take him down. He's probably going to be caught in one choke early, and if Elkins can scramble his way out of that, he should be smooth sailing. So
Yeah, dude.
if
Come
you
on.
like Minner, you shouldn't be betting him as a favorite, especially at -150. And if you like him, just take a round one prop. Maybe take. I saw the knockout round one for Minner is 13-1. I mean, there is a small chance that Minner just comes out, blitzes him, Elkins is shot, and he goes down. So I kind of think there's some value on that. But what do you think about Elkins finishing versus decision? Because I think after round one, it should be all Elkins, right? You think Elkins is going to put it on him and finish him, or you think it's going to go the
Man,
distance?
Man, I think so. I don't. I don't believe in Derek Minner. I just, I just don't see it. I think that, uh, Elkins should be able to get, some good positions and start to land ground and pound. Does he finish? I don't know. I'm not sure because Minner, I Elkins is not the most devastating, hitter. But if I was Elkins, I'd be like, all right, well, if I can finish Derek Minner, I could get a performance bonus. So let me try and do that. That sounds good. So, maybe you got a little sprinkle on that, but I don't even think it's that great odds. Like, what is him inside the distance? Like
No, I think it's probably like plus
plus
250.
plus 325. That's not bad.
What is submission? Because he's not gonna knock him out. Let me see this.
I might just
Um,
ground pound him
Elkins
plus
sub plus 500.
450,
I see 500
500.
500 on FanDuel.
That's not bad.
They pretty much opened every submission line at plus 500 this week, pretty much. All right,
Mm.
but we're both on Elkins here. I haven't actually bet him yet, but might have to get in on his money line. But I don't know. I kind of expect maybe some late minor money to come in. I mean, Elkins has lost 4 fights in a row. So on paper, some like late casual betters might come in on Minner, honestly. Hopefully. Next fight, we got a really good fight in the bantamweight division. We got Kyler Phillips, who has swelled to a minus 270 favorite, taking on Paiva plus 230 dog. Paiva has been kind of a popular underdog in our friend group this week. Uh, Ozzy, are you subscribing to that Paiva? You think this line is wide?
Um, Man, I tried to see the Paiva love. I really did. I kind of see it, but what I feel is, um, the line is probably wide. Kyler Phillips is a really hyped up prospect. I forget which season of The Ultimate Fighter specifically he was on. There's just so many of them. But I remember seeing the cast and I was like, oh well, Kyler Phillips is the favorite here. And I think he lost like his first fight, like no brainer. Like it wasn't even particularly close. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe he'll take his time. So he comes from a jiu-jitsu background. He has some like traditional martial arts mixed in as well. Trains at I think MMA Lab with some really good training partners there, and he's definitely had hype before. Like I've definitely heard of him before the UFC, but after the Ultimate Fighter and all that. And his last fight, he definitely impressed me against Yadong. I liked Yadong in that fight just because I thought that he'd be able to land on Phillips, but Phillips was able to stifle him with primarily what I thought it was his footwork and was what worried me a little bit with Yadong, with him being so right hand dominant. But Kyler has really good understanding on the feet of distance. He throws intelligent strikes. But I think in this fight, the only way for him to be minus 270, and I think what the thought process is that he's going to use his ground game. In that Gabriel Silva, I believe is his name. I know his first name is Gabriel. Fight that he had in the UFC. I was pretty impressed with some of the stuff that he was working through on the ground there. Some of the positions that he was looking for and taking. And I think that if you like Phillips here, and I'm going to have a personal play on this, I'd take Phillips by submission, which is I think plus 800. I think that's just a wide line, just because Paiva. I know I saw a stat that he's got like he spent the least amount of time on his back at a something. I don't know what was the parameters, but I think that Phillips, if he does get a takedown, he's going to be looking for submissions. To finish a fight. I don't think he's looking for a ground and pound stoppage. And then Paiva will, as the lighter guys do, give up their backs. And I think Phillips is pretty dangerous. So, if he's at any point losing the striking exchanges, I think Phillips shoots in for a takedown. He got Yadong down a bunch of times, and Paiva's been taken down by a bunch of guys. So I think that's a good angle there. But on the feet, I just don't really see the Paiva stuff. Like, is he gonna land, some big shots with his kind of like gangly uh body, I guess. But I think Phillips has should have the advantage in just his overall approach.
So one point about Paiva's defensive grappling is he is, tall and lanky, so he's not going to be like a good wrestler. He's not going to stop that initial takedown, but he is pretty good at getting off of his back at, getting up once he's been taken down. And that stat is like, yeah, he spent the least time on bottom after being taken down. So he has been taken down by a few guys, but like he pops back up to his feet really fast. So I actually disagree that Phillips is going to out grapple him. I mean, plus 800 though, you can't really be too wrong when you're stabbing at that. So I don't disagree with that play. But I just think this fight's going to be closer than the line indicates. I think maybe Phillips at 65% is like the max I would cap him at minus 190, but minus 200, I just don't see Phillips justifying it. I think the market is kind of doing like an overcorrection here. He was a dog to Yadong, and now he's a big favorite over Paiva. And I think Paiva is kind of like a bit of an unknown talent to like some more betters. Zumagula fight was a year ago. He did take a year off. So I think people maybe forgot about him a little bit. I think he's a solid kickboxer. As I mentioned, he's a good defensive grappler, and I think he's gonna move up to 135 and actually have success. He is like a tall, lanky guy, and I think this weight class will actually do good for him. So I just think Paiva will compete everywhere. I think he'll be competitive in the striking. I think he won't get taken down or held down for too long. I think he probably will get taken down, but I just see him getting back up to the feet and making this fight close everywhere. I guess it is hard for me to see like a full path to victory for him. I guess a close decision by edging the striking is his best bet. Um, but I just can't agree with Phillips in the minus 270 range. So I got a half unit bet on Paiva here plus 225, and I'm down to stab half unit to see if the fight's closer than the odds are.
Right on.
And one last one note about Phillips is like, the guys he's beaten before Yudong was the best opponent he's beaten by far. I think the guys he's beaten before that are actually, not the highest level opponents. And Paiva, I think, has fought in the better fighters in his past 4 or 5 fights. So I think Paiva's going to surprise some people off the layoff. Um, that brings us to the next fight. Aspen Ladd Chassin canceled. Sorry. I was picking Ladd here. Chassin's defense takedown defense is just dreadful. She got taken down by Lena Landsberg, Sarah Moras, even Marion Renal was able to take her down. So I thought Ladd was just going to get the body lock, take her down, and probably dominate and stop her. What were your thoughts on that before it got canceled?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, yeah. Good analysis of that one. Moving on to the best fight on the card, the main event. We got the former champion TJ Dillashaw is actually the plus 170 underdog here, and the new young gun Corey Sandhagen, the minus 195 favorite. So I'll let you start your thoughts on this one. Great main event, one of the best fight night main events we've had in a long time.
Yeah, so awesome fight put together. I know I've probably been thinking about these guys matching up for quite a while now. So Sandhagen, I had thought back before the Sterling fight, I'm like, man, this is the number one guy right now. And obviously he had that hiccup versus versus Sterling, but came back with two devastating knockouts. You know, it's tough when you're kind of looking at this fight when you're looking at angles where it's the hole in Sandhagen's grappling game is just undeniable. Like Marlon Moraes was taking him down pretty easily. Now that being said, Marlon took down who was it? Not Rob Font. Who's a lot? Yeah, Rob Font took him down right away. Took down Aldo. So I guess he has some wrestling. But Dillashaw should, as soon as he locks his hands around Corey, like Corey's just so, I think, just his hips are just not made to sprawl and stuff. I think it's kind of impossible. I've seen this a lot of times before, where guys you think that, they're going to improve their takedown defense or their takedowns even, and it just never happens. I know he's been working with Ryan Hall, so I think that means that he's probably going to go for jujitsu based defenses at some points, like Kimura traps, um, triangles, like looking to scoop up entries to the legs, and doing things like that. Which I think could work out for him because he does have those features, and I've seen him do some those things before. Against Mario Batista, he hit Kimura into like a triangle. So I put a little bit of money on Sandhagen by submission at plus at 20 to 1. I think that's a good bet because if TJ is winning this fight, and it's a narrative for sure, but it also is more than likely, it needs to be a grappling based fight. So I think that ticket probably holds some value because of that, and I don't think that I think Corey, with how he's talking, he's like, look, I'm here to be the best. I'm here to do exciting things and do big things. He's probably gonna be looking to finish TJ in some of those grappling exchanges. So I thought that's something that I think could play out. On the feet, I think Dillashaw, for him to have success, I think he should be looking to throw leg kicks like he did versus Dominic Cruz. He didn't get those going against Dominic until like the third round, I think maybe. He should definitely look to do that really early on, mix that in with his takedowns. Because Sandhagen, I thought, watching that fight against Rice, it was just really strange to me because the way he was throwing his jab and some of those things, it didn't look to me as if I'm thinking about him matching up with TJ as something that's going to be that effective. Like if he's not coming forward, towards TJ, I don't think he's going to be having that great offense, on him. That being said, you saw what happened when he invited Frankie Edgar to come in. So, he's just dangerous everywhere. But I lean TJ, and I will put the disclaimer that I am terrible at picking main events. Do with that what you may. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards TJ as well. I mean, I wasn't thinking this coming into tape, but the more I tape, the more I'm reminded about how great of a fighter TJ Dillashaw was. The more I see the mistakes in the grappling from Corey, and Corey's a tremendous striker. I do think he probably has the striking advantage here. One because he's younger, he should be faster, he's longer, but just because he's just so much more used to the striking exchanges, the pace of a fight, he's used to getting hit. I mean, it's been 2.5 years since TJ has probably been hit full speed with these, small gloves at a full fight pace. Meanwhile, Corey's been fighting really good fighters and, having some close wars with them like Linker. I think he really proved that he's a great fighter in that fight. And I was just rewatching some of the wrestling exchanges from Corey. I do agree with what you said. The guy just isn't made for wrestling. He gets taken down rather easily. I thought he did show some improvements in the defensive grappling versus Rafael Sunsao, able to escape those takedowns from a talented grappler without being held down too long. But the Aljamain fight was obviously a very bad look. I don't think the Dillashaw is on the same level of a submission grappler and a jujitsu guy as Aljamain is, obviously, but I still think that TJ Dillashaw can have success in this fight with his wrestling. I think that he needs to mimic the game plan he had against John Linker. Now, TJ Dillashaw probably could have outstruck Linker on the feet the entire time, but he's a really smart fighter. He's a championship level fighter. He took the easiest path to victory against Linker by staying on the outside, staying out of his punching range, timing those takedowns, those great takedowns when he was switching stances. I mean, he was really catching Linker off guard there and was able to take him down easily. He had a better top game than I remembered. He was holding Linker down. He was landing good ground and pound. He attempted that cool calf slicer in the last round. So Dillashaw is an underrated grappler. He's an underrated wrestler. And I think he has a really legit path to victory to win this fight with his wrestling. And I think the odds should be closer to minus 130, minus 150 for Sandhagen. Where it's at now, at closer to minus 200, I think you got to bet on TJ here. There are obviously some legit concerns, 2.5 year layoff. He's coming off of EPO. And, the last time we saw him beat a guy besides Cody was almost 5 years ago. So there's not a ton of recent information to think that TJ is going to win this fight. But judging by the great fighter he once was, the championship level fighter he was, I'm kind of having more faith in him to come back and pull off this upset performance. So, Pure pick wise, I guess I'm going with Sandhagen, but betting line, I think the value is all over TJ here, and I'll definitely be cheering for TJ to pull off the upset victory via grappling. I'm kind of leaning this one to go rounds 4-5 decision, like regardless of whether. Um, Regardless of who is winning, I think the fight is going to be a longer fight. I think Corey is going to respect TJ, and it's going to go into the later rounds. So, what are you thinking about? Official prediction, Ozzy, and what are you thinking about like how it's going to end? What stage of the fight?
I'm going to pick. Fuck. Damn. All right. If I was to bet this, I would bet TJ. TJ to win. But
Money
my
line. Yep.
pick, yeah, my pick will be. I think someone's gonna get a finish here at some point. I feel if TJ is having success grappling, he's going to get to positions that he's going to throw punches that are going to hurt Corey. Yeah, I think he's like if he's just dominating with that grappling, like he's gonna get nasty with some of this ground and pound and maybe force a finish. But if Corey's been being able to get out of these takedowns, I think he's gonna knock him out. So I'll pick Corey by like a third round, like a third round stoppage that involves some kind of grappling, getting out, maybe him reversing, getting to like a mount and that's why I think that submission prop I think is so good because I feel like there's a way that because that TJ is wrestling and Corey is just able to like reverse him. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
get on top of him,
He did
get him out.
armbar Mario
Yeah,
Bautista in a
yeah.
pretty slick exchange.
I'm telling you, like he gets on top of him. He gets
Could
to
be a
a mount real
club
quick.
sub knockout
Yeah,
too.
he's throwing some of these strikes, and then he like sinks in like a rear naked or something like that. So
Yeah, I think 20
it's
to
good.
1 is worth a stab.
Yeah, I think it's good price.
But yeah, we'll be cheering for TJ here, likely betting his money line. But either guy winning, I think is cool with us. Corey's a really cool fighter. He's got a high ceiling, and I think he'll have some fucking really fun fights at bantamweight against Munoz, against Jan, maybe even against Aldo or something. So, um, great main event here, and we're done with these 11 fights. Any closing thoughts here, Ozzy?
No, just overall, I think good fight card this week. Next week, a little underwhelming. Hope to do one of these for Bellator and that AJ McKee card. And yeah, we got 6 months left in the year. Goal is to really really get get some good picks out there, get some good analysis out there, and finish the year strong across all the fights available. I think right now is a really really good time to be betting. Last week I saw that LFA card had over unders. They had odds for a ton of fights, like some Brazilian fights. So I think a lot of options are out there right now, and if you're good at picking fights and all, it's a good time to be looking to make some money.
Hell yeah, man. I agree with all that. You can find Ozzy, just search him Ozzy MMA on Bet MMA or Twitter. Thank you all for listening. We'll try to do more of these podcasts when there are some more good cards. And thanks for my man Ozzy for joining me. And that's gonna do it for this podcast. So hope you all enjoy the fights this Saturday night. Hope you all win some bets, and we'll see you before the next podcast. See you guys later.